The penthouse sold in 12 minutes. Emirates just announced record passenger numbers. Construction cranes fill every skyline photo. 4.2 million residents call this city home. International schools have waiting lists stretching months. So why did 847,000 work visas go unused last quarter, while rent climbed 34%? This isn't about economic cycles. This is about a city that promised tax-free paradise and quietly moved the goalposts. If what you're seeing shocks you, hit subscribe and leave your Dubai experience in the comments. But before we start, this documentary reveals the uncomfortable truth behind the glittering facade. Here was the deal that built a city: zero income tax, world-class infrastructure, safety, and global connectivity. The trade-off? You'd never become a citizen, but you could live like royalty regardless of your passport or background. The golden years from 2010 to 2020 represented Dubai at its most accessible. A $3,000 monthly salary could secure you a marina apartment. International school fees, while never cheap, remained within reach for professionals. The middle class genuinely thrived alongside the ultra-wealthy in a rare economic ecosystem that seemed to work for everyone. This was the meritocracy promise that attracted millions. Come here, work hard, live well. Your passport didn't matter. Your religion didn't matter. Your starting capital didn't matter. What mattered was what you could contribute to this rapidly developing metropolis. The infrastructure miracle that unfolded over 2 decades was built on the backs of engineers earning $8,000 a month and teachers making $8,000 a month and teachers making $4,500. These weren't poverty wages. They were comfortable salaries that allowed professionals to save money while enjoying luxury living standards impossible in their home countries. The social contract was straightforward: temporary residency in exchange for permanent opportunity. You couldn't stay forever without continually proving your economic value. But while you were there, you'd experience a lifestyle few other places could match. This bargain worked brilliantly for both sides, until it didn't. The numbers they don't want you to see tell a disturbing story of rapid destabilization. The rent explosion has shocked even longtime residents. A 34% increase in just 12 months has marina one-bedrooms jumping from $1,800 to $1,800 to $1,800 to $2,400, while salaries remain completely flat. What once represented 30% of an expatriate professional's income now consumes 40 to 50%, destroying savings potential overnight. Perhaps most telling is the visa abandonment crisis. 847,000 approved work visas went unused in the last quarter of 2025. Think about that. Nearly 1 million people literally chose not to come to Dubai despite having job offers in hand. They ran the numbers and determined the economics no longer made sense. For families, the school crisis has become the final straw. International school fees now range from $15,000 to an astounding $15,000 to an astounding $45,000 per child annually. Families with multiple children face education bills exceeding $100,000 before a single dirham of rent is paid. The math has simply collapsed for middle-class professionals. The salary stagnation data confirms the squeeze. 73% of companies froze salaries in 2025, while the cost of living increased by 28%. This isn't a gap, it's a chasm that middle-income residents cannot bridge. The exodus evidence is undeniable. UAE residents' visa cancellations are up 31% year over year, with 89% citing financial unsustainability as their primary reason for departure. These aren't disgruntled employees or failed entrepreneurs. They're successful professionals who simply can't make the numbers work anymore. How they change the rules without telling you reveals a deliberate shift in economic strategy. The housing trap starts with investor speculation driving 67% of property purchases. These units aren't homes, they're assets, often sitting empty or converted to short-term rentals that generate higher returns than long-term leases. Meanwhile, corporate housing allowances, once standard for expatriate packages, have failed to keep pace with skyrocketing rates. The education squeeze represents perhaps the most calculated extraction of wealth from the middle class. International schools raise fees 15 to 25% annually, with zero corresponding increase in quality. Waiting lists are manipulated to create artificial scarcity, justifying premium pricing, while local curriculum options remain deliberately limited to force expensive international choices. The service economy collapse follows naturally. Restaurants, retail outlets, and hotels struggle to staff positions as workers simply can't afford to live anywhere near their jobs. 45-minute commutes have become standard as affordable housing pushes further to the periphery, creating what urban planners call the donut effect, service workers living in Sharjah and Ajman while commuting daily to Dubai. Finally, we see the corporate calculation happening in boardrooms worldwide. Companies have realized that Dubai packages now cost 40% more than equivalent positions in Singapore or Hong Kong. Recruitment at previous salary levels has become nearly impossible, and the Dubai premium that once justified these costs no longer delivers the promised lifestyle. The people who built this city are saying goodbye, and their stories reveal the human dimension of this economic transformation. Sarah, a British teacher with 8 years in Dubai, faces an impossible choice. The international school fees for her 2 children now exceed her annual salary, forcing her to choose between her career and her kids' education. After nearly a decade of contributing to Dubai's educational system, she's relocating to Malaysia. Ahmed, a Lebanese engineer with 12 years in the emirate, watched rent increases push his family from a 3-bedroom villa to a 1-bedroom apartment. Despite his senior position at a major construction firm, he's finalizing immigration to Canada, where his salary will stretch significantly further. The Patel family operated a beloved local restaurant for 15 years until their commercial lease tripled while customer spending decreased. They've closed their business and returned to India, taking their entrepreneurial spirit and community connection with them. Maria, a Filipino nurse with 6 years of service, now works 2 jobs to afford a shared apartment. The cruel irony? She's sending less money home to her family than when she first arrived, despite working twice as many hours. Perhaps most poignant is the generational impact. Children who grew up in Dubai, speak Arabic, consider it home, but have no pathway to stay as adults. These third-culture kids face forced departure from the only home they've ever known once they age out of their parents' visas. This isn't an accident, it's the plan. Dubai has embraced what urban economists call the Monaco strategy, a deliberate transformation from accessible meritocracy to luxury enclave serving only the ultra-wealthy. Government policies increasingly favor property investors and high-net-worth individuals over the long-term residents who built the city's infrastructure and institutions. The tax-free trap remains carefully maintained. Zero income tax is still prominently featured in recruitment materials, while the hidden costs of housing, education, and services create effective tax rates of 35 to 40% through other mechanisms. The citizenship firewall, requiring 30 years of residency before even applying for citizenship, ensures permanent population turnover and prevents community formation that might demand political representation. Corporate complicity completes the picture, with businesses accepting lower service quality and higher turnover rather than paying sustainable wages that would allow workers to remain in the city long term. What needs to change and why it won't reveals the fundamental tension at Dubai's core. The housing solution is straightforward: rent control mechanisms and long-term resident protections that other global cities use successfully. The education fix would require public international curriculum options and fee regulation to prevent exploitation of captive markets. Visa reform providing merit-based permanent residency pathways for long-term contributors, not just millionaire investors, would stabilize communities. The economic reality that sustainable cities need sustainable middle classes, not just wealthy tourists and oligarchs, represents basic urban planning wisdom. But these changes would require acknowledging a fundamental truth. A global city cannot survive solely as a playground for the ultra-wealthy. It needs teachers, nurses, engineers, small business owners, and the vibrant middle class that makes a city worth living in. If you're experiencing this reality, if you're watching your Dubai dream become unaffordable, share your story. The world needs to know what's happening behind the glossy headlines and spectacular skyline photos. When did building a global city become about excluding the people who actually built it?